All right, let's talk about those big, high-stakes language tests. You know the ones. Ever wonder what separates a good test from a bad one? Well, today we're diving into the secret ingredient, this hidden process that makes sure a test is actually fair and, effective.
I want you to think back for a second. We've all been there, right? You walk out of a speaking or writing exam and you just have this feeling in your gut that something was off, that the test completely missed the mark and didn't really measure what you can do. Yeah, you are definitely not alone in feeling that way.
And these frustrations are so common. Maybe the instructions were just a total mess, and you spent half your time trying to figure out what you were supposed to do. Or the topic felt like it came out of left field, maybe super biased towards one culture. Or worse, it felt like a memory game, not a test of your actual communication skills. These aren't just bad feelings, they're real symptoms of a poorly designed test.
But what if I told you there's a whole professional process, a rigorous quality control system designed specifically to catch and fix these exact problems before that test ever lands in front of you?
Well, there is. It's called task review. And that's the official definition. But really, it just means there are experts whose entire job is to systematically check every single test question to make sure it works the way it's supposed to. It's a pretty critical step.
The absolute easiest way to think about it is this. Task review is basically the quality control department for language tests. It's that expert check that happens behind the scenes to make sure the final product, the test you take, is reliable, fair, and accurate. Simple as that. Okay, so what exactly are these experts looking for during this health check? It's not just about proofreading for typos, oh no. They are digging deep and analyzing the test from a bunch of really crucial angles.
First up, and this is probably the biggest question of all, does this test task actually measure the skill it claims to measure? Are we testing real, authentic communication, or are we just testing someone's ability to do some weird artificial exercise that doesn't exist in the real world?
Okay, I know these terms look a little academic, so let's just break it down. Construct representation is just a fancy way of asking, are we getting the right skill to show up? For example, if it's supposed to be a discussion, is it actually testing your ability to interact with someone, or are you just giving a prepared monologue? And authenticity is exactly what it sounds like. Does this task feel like something you might actually do in real life? The goal here is to avoid these abstract puzzles that have zero connection to reality.
Now, just as important is the question of fairness. I mean, a test is worthless if it gives certain people an unfair advantage. For a lot of people, these tests can open or close doors to huge, life-changing opportunities. So the goal has to be a level playing field for absolutely everyone.
And this example right here illustrates the point perfectly. Look at the one on the left. Describe your favorite childhood holiday celebration. That prompt makes a ton of assumptions about your cultural background. But look at the revised version on the right. Describe a memorable celebration from your life. See? So much better. It's way more inclusive. It lets anyone from any background talk about a meaningful experience. It's a small tweak that makes a massive difference in fairness.
So, to make sure a test is truly fair, reviewers are checking for three main things. First, the instructions have to be crystal clear. No one should be confused about what they need to do. Second, the topics have to be culturally neutral, just like the example we just saw. And third, what they call appropriate load. That just means the test shouldn't require you to be an expert in some random subject to answer the question. It's supposed to test your language skills, not your trivia knowledge.
Okay, so we know what reviewers are looking for. But how do they actually find these flaws and, more importantly, fix them? Well, it's not a one-and-done kind of check. It's this whole dynamic cycle of continuous improvement. Here's a peek at how it works. First, a panel of experts reviews the task before it ever sees a single test taker. Then it gets piloted, which means it's trialed with a small group of actual learners to see how it works in a real-world setting. And finally, even after a task is used on an official test, the data and feedback are constantly analyzed to catch any issues that might have slipped through. It's this constant loop of review and refinement.
And this whole process leads to real, concrete changes. We're talking about things like rewriting a prompt that was confusing or adjusting the time limit because a task felt too rushed. They might clarify instructions or even totally redesign how test takers interact with each other, all to make sure the assessment is as fair and accurate as possible.
So why go through all this trouble? Ultimately, all of this super detailed work has a really profound purpose. The quality of a test has huge real-world consequences, and honestly, getting it right is just non-negotiable.
And the payoff for all this work is immense. It means you get scores that are more reliable, scores that actually mean something. It makes the test fundamentally fairer for everyone. And, maybe most importantly,
It ensures that the big decisions being made based on these scores, things like getting into a university or getting a professional certification, are defensible, solid, and trustworthy.
So the next time you find yourself facing one of these high-stakes tests, just remember there's this whole invisible process of task review working hard behind the scenes. And that really leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? What could change if every single assessment we ever took, in school, at work, or anywhere else, was built with this much care and this much integrity?